We love equestrian here on Off the Podium, and a couple of weeks ago we started to learn a little bit more about dressage, a discipline of equestrian we have never really covered on this show before. We had that with Jess, and we're here now to talk to a fellow dressage athlete who's had an esteemed career in the sport, and he's on the cusp of making her Olympic debut in Paris later this year. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome to Off the Podium, Jemma Heran. Jemma, first of all, welcome to Off the Podium. It is such a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you.
It's so exciting to learn more about you and dressage because, as I said, we had Jess on a few weeks back learning all the little aspects about dressage because it's a sport that I feel we need to learn more about, not just on this show, but everybody in Australia, because we watch the Olympics every 4 years, and let's be honest, we watch dressage, and I think a lot of the time we go, well, what's going on? So do you find this? Is this something that you have to explain to people when you say, hey, I'm in equestrian and dressage? Is that something you commonly have to do?
For sure. I think the best way to describe it is like dancing horses or something to like a horse person. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Dancing horse. I
don't really know.
It just sounds so much more like, I think, can we just rename that in the Olympics, do you think? I mean, dressage is like the formal name.
I mean, non-horse people, they just don't get it. Like, what?
Well, that's why.
Horse people, like, it's a very established industry. Like, it's one of the oldest.
Well, that's why we need people like you on this show, Jemma, to help explain it to it, as we will do throughout this interview. But I'd love to learn from you just how you got involved in equestrian. At what age did you start, and what brought you into the sport?
I started riding at 8. I would have been 8 or 7. And my mum had just off the track thoroughbred. My dad owned a number of race horses. So I guess it started there. My mum got one of Dad's ex-race horses. She grew up on a cattle farm in New Zealand. Just like, I don't know, I think they had dairy cattle. So she grew up riding just like on a huge ranch for fun, really. Just like a cowboy style stuff. And yeah, Dad had like 40 race horses. And
wow.
Yeah, he was big in the racing, or it still is, big in the racing industry. So I'm from sort of a horsey family, but I guess I started with a pony, and we started showing. Like, that's a whole nother sport in itself. And like in show hunter pony classes and stuff like this. And I guess I just never stopped. I think I did that for about 15 years or something before converting to dressage. And I guess it's when I really hit the peak in my showing career that I was like, what's next? Like, I've won a lot here and I can keep winning a lot, or I need something, like I need to be stimulated.
It's fascinating that, I mean, you obviously come from that background where your dad's into racing and then you do showing and then you end up in equestrian. There's 3 whole different disciplines right there in itself there, Jemma. Yeah. Was there a prospect, like did your dad try and get you into racing? Like, was that ever an idea?
No, I actually would love to have been a jockey as a kid. Like, I was there for the adrenaline, but there was no chance. He was like, way too dangerous. You're not doing that.
Wow.
I think he knew more from a different perspective. So there was no chance I was doing that. So he was happy to buy me a pony, but no racing.
And what girl doesn't want their dad buying them a pony at that age, I can imagine.
I know, exactly. He was the dumb one who said, okay.
Is that common? Is that common for somebody in race horses to own 40 race horses? That seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But they're not all racing, right? You have from like, I don't know, babies, like he has a breeding program, so he has broodmares and he has certain foals each year, and then the foals become 1-year-olds, and then you have the next lot of foals the next year, so it kind of can accumulate really fast. Wow. You know, you have 5 broodmares and they have 5 foals 1 year, 5 foals next year. Within 4 years, you've got, 20. Just
keeps going, basically. You once you get into that sort of...
Yeah, and then he would buy some and he would sell some, and like they just accumulated. So he probably only had, I don't know, maybe up to 10 racing at one given time. But then you have the ones, like some get injured and do rehab programs at home. Some spell, like they come in and out. So like the ones spelling would go in the paddock for 3 months and then go back and race. So
It's
it's a whole big system. Then you have the foals. They can't really do anything for a few years. They run
it's
around.
I can still imagine, even just like with tenor racing though, like you got to obviously keep track on them. I mean, do you grow up in that environment and then all of a sudden
Some
have
people have a lot more than 10.
a lot more than 10? Wow, this is a
A
whole other
lot.
interview in itself,
Yeah,
Gemma. But
some owners, they really have a lot everywhere in the country.
wow, do you find yourself then growing up and getting attached to some, like you want others to win more than others, or is it kind of a case of we've got 10 in the race,
I
let's
got
go?
really attached to mine, but the racehorses not so much. That
Not
was
so
Dad's
much.
thing.
Whole other.
We had them as foals, and it was cool to see them run really well. And we've had some really good ones. And when they've retired, they've gone to really good homes. Some breed, some not. Like they get retrained as eventers and showing horses, and so I guess yeah, if they continue on in a happy environment, then that's really fun.
Fascinating. Did he ever get sort of what level of racing did he get to? Was there like Melbourne Cups, Caulfield Cups, like sort of that level in terms of his racing?
He won the Oakley Stakes.
Right.
I'm trying to think off my head now. This was a few years ago. He won some, pretty big races. I think a second in the Magic Millions.
Wow.
I can't remember off my head right now.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I've been in Scotland in Germany for a few years, so I can't.
different world, basically.
Yeah, different world. Like I've been out of that for a few years now.
Fantastic.
But no, I was quite involved as a kid too. I got really into it.
All these layers, Gemma. I love it, peeling these back to sort of get that there. But you talk about then you get into sort of the showing world. I mean, tell us a little bit about that. Like, how does that work as a young girl? You've got a pony, you get into the showing world. How do you progress in that world at that age?
I think the best way to describe showing is it's like a low level dressage test. But with a bit more fight, because you all get I don't know how many, I think roughly 10. They put you on a circle in front of a judge, and then the judge calls you in first to whatever number, and then you do like a low level dressage test. They just tell you on the spot, and you would ride like a low level dressage test. So I think it teaches you to be a bit hungry, like I think the dressage as a young rider, I don't know. I don't think it would make you as hungry. Like you have to sit on this circle with 10 other kids and ride around and really fight for your spot for the first. The judge needs to see you and they turn around and turn their back. So you've got to cut and weave and get in front of them. And I don't know. It's a different sport, but it's very similar in ways. And I think as a little kid, I don't know. I just started at 8 and bought a lot of ponies and showed, and I don't know how I really progressed. I just did it.
Just did it.
Young.
Is it a common?
I love horses. Like I genuinely love riding, working with the horses, showing. Like changed it up a little,
Is it a common path for people in that sort of show area to then progress into dressage?
Yeah, it is. I think it's quite common.
And
yeah. I think for the kids, because there's not I think it's the young rider sport in Australia for dressage has progressed a lot. But I know when I was a kid, there was not a lot that you could do in young riders in dressage in Australia.
I was going to say, are you exposed to it much sort of at that age, the world of dressage outside of the show world?
Yeah, not really young rider stuff. Like you sit and you watch your idols on doing the Grand Prix at the Olympics and stuff like that, right? It's the same sort of thing. But the young rider sports progress a lot in Australia. Like they have a lot of different young rider opportunities, and I think there's a lot more young riders taking those opportunities and riding these young rider tests. But I think before, when I was younger, this wasn't really a common thing. Like you would start with show horses and then go over.
You touched on sort of
what you wanted. But some people show for their whole lives and get great satisfaction out of it.
I guess it's that progression though. Like if you want to go to the Olympics, it's sort of you got to change that up a little bit. You touched on sort of watching your idols and that at the Olympics as a young girl. Did you grow up watching the Olympics and sort of did that become sort of a dream when you were watching the Olympics that you could do this one day?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what age I started really watching dressage, but I got really into it. I thought it was so cool.
And how is
Watching
that?
these people.
Back to sort of what we started with, kind of like when you explain what the sport is. And I mean,
Yeah.
as children, you know, a lot of the time, particularly if you're not involved in a certain sport and you're just watching the Olympics, you may be watching these sports where you're sort of getting a little bit more, I guess, action and all those kind of things. But you're obviously into that side of things with the dressage and that. So are you there like fighting over the remote with your friends there, wanting to watch the swimming or the athletics? And you're like, no, I want to watch the dancing horses. Like, can we switch over to that, please?
To be honest, I spent more time with the horses than my friends at home, and they were really understanding of this.
Horses want to watch the
normally
dancing horses.
they got it. They really got it. Like, I was late for everything, dinners, birthdays. They were like, she's probably doing the horses. But no, they were they were not horsey at all, and they all really got it. But no, most of the time I would just be watching it really on my phone, like sitting in a restaurant.
Wow.
Inappropriate timing, like whenever it was on, it was on my phone. There was no really like sitting viewing parties because I can't say my friends are really into it.
Until you're in
like
Paris
me,
and they watch
I don't
you.
think they really got it. Yeah. Yeah. They watch me now still, but I don't think they really get it.
Did you play many other sports? Were you sort of active outside of showing other sports at all?
Yeah, I was super active as a kid. I played tennis, golf, like really all the sports. We had a house on the water, so me and my brother would go skiing behind the boats, and we really did everything. We did it like I grew up with a brother, so we were like outdoors, like rough, tough, dirty kids. So I did everything. Super sporty, but I never really fell in love with the sport, you know, like hitting a tennis ball, I'm like, I'm bored. Like, but with the horses, like every day is different. Every day is a new day. Nothing's ever really the same. Like, it's an animal at the end of the day, not a tennis racket. It has a personality.
And I read that a lot of that is what sort of drove you into dressage, is that relationship with the horse, and then sort of kind of working with it and being able to form that ability in which you need to do that. So was that something that, touching what you're saying there, that when you're showing and you're forming these relationships with your ponies and your horses, that was a key driver to why you wanted to pursue that more to the level that you have today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the horses, you really grow a relationship with them, like maybe more than your pet dog. Like, you spend 7 days a week with them, all day, every day. And it's really, I think, a sport that you have to love what you're doing. Like, I don't think you can really do it to this extent if you didn't enjoy it, because it's like really long hours, big days. And we spend a lot of time with them. So I guess you build like this really close relationship, like more than a pet dog even.
Does that make it hard to have a pet dog?
I have a pet dog. Paul's on the floor here somewhere. She's the best. She loves the horses. She's the horse
that's good.
dog.
That's perfect. But it's obviously you can't bring a horse into the house though to lay on the floor though, can you? Like, that's kind of the difference.
No, you can't. But we spend so much time, I may as well. I would really love to put one of them on the couch, to be honest. If this is an option, this is socially acceptable. I would
Big
definitely put them
couch?
on the couch.
I mean,
as a kid, I took my pony in the house all the time.
Wow. Did parents like that? Were they okay with that? No?
We don't tell them. We do it when they're not there or not looking.
I was going to say, don't tell them. It's a bit hard to avoid. Like, what's that in the corner? Nothing. Just a pony.
Just my giant pony.
Yeah, just put a sheet over it. No, that's just the dog. I don't know what you're talking about.
I always did it when they weren't really around. I don't know where they would go, but somewhere down the back, and I'd be like, quick, sneak the pony in.
Well, again, if you come from a family where they've got upwards of 40 racehorses, Gemma, I feel that like they're just around anyway, right? Like, I mean, one's walked in the house.
One's walked in the house. We grew up on a farm that had chickens and all sorts of things that would just like stroll in the house.
Just casually,
clean that house too, and we were just like trashing it.
There's little things like that, I guess, you don't sort of realize with it, because I mean, if we're talking to a tennis player on the show, I mean, they can just leave a racket on the ground. It's not going to poop and do whatever. But
exactly.
Like,
it doesn't get up and get up and chase you.
have that relationship. When you ultimately made that,
you wouldn't have a relationship with a tennis racket, that's for sure.
Well, you could, but I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's not a living, breathing thing, right? Like, if you break it, throw it out, move on. I mean, you
get a new one.
Break your horse, it's a little bit different.
This is not ideal.
No. I don't think you want to break your horse.
No,
Probably not a positive there.
no, that's an expensive one.
When you make that switch to dressage from showing, is it a smooth transition? I mean, do you have to like contact a coach? I mean, kind of how do you go about that?
It depends, really. It depends how you do it. Like you can move overseas and get a job in a stable and start working and start riding through this avenue. I mean, if you haven't got a lot of financial funding, you can import a horse, you can buy a horse in Australia, and find training, yeah. Or you can just go and wing it, but that's not always the best idea. For me, I imported a one-blood from Europe. He was a bit older, and I got one that was pretty enough that I could show still, and it was really sort of that I could do both, like showing and dressage with this horse, so that I could sort of learn whether I wanted to do dressage. Like I didn't want to throw a lot of money into it, and if it was something that wasn't for me. So I sort of had a horse that could do both, and I'm like, if I hate it, then I can continue showing, and it's not a problem. So yeah, I imported a young rider horse, and then I had some training from. So it's a hard one, like from the two boys I was showing show horses with. Phil was into the dressage completely, so we kind of self-trained a little bit in the beginning, and then us with the show horses. He's from a dressage background. He's in Queensland. We train or twice a week, sort of a thing. So we started training this way. But yeah,
so
there's heaps of ways you can do it.
So when it comes to importing a horse from Europe to Australia, you obviously have to do a lot of research into knowing what you are looking for in a horse then that can lead you in to dressage. Because, I mean, going back to the tennis racket analogy, you can get a tennis racket online, have a couple of hits with it, go, well, this one's kind of crap, I'll get another one. Whereas,
get another one.
Again, with a horse, you can't really do that. So how much research and how much do you have to go into getting that horse before it imports on a plane?
I think a lot of it comes down to like the person's ability and eye to spot a good one, along with your feel. Like it has to be something you enjoy riding. So I think it's really important that you go and ride them a few times. But it also comes down to their eye to pick a good horse, you know. And some people have the better ability to pick a better horse than other people. And that's just the reality of it. You know, there's a lot you take into consideration when you buy a dressage horse. Like it's got 3 paces, like a good walk, a good trot, a good canter. It depends. Like mine was a young rider horse, so it didn't need to passage piaffe. Like this is not important for us. For us, you dissect the test of the young riders a little bit. So, you know, it needs good 2s, 3s, and 4s. It needs a half pirouette. It needs good half passes. You know, so you've got to find a horse with strengths in that like for the test, coefficients in the test, where they ×2, and yeah, so it comes down to like a lot of different things. But I think, yeah, you've got to find the right one for you at the end of the day too, and one that you get along with.
And are you constantly like having Zoom or Skype calls with them in Europe to kind of chat about it? And do they send you videos, kind of what you're saying there, so you can get a
Not really.
visual?
Like for me, it's always been pretty straightforward. Like I sit on them and I know straight away whether I like the feeling or not, or whether it's too big or too full on or not enough. And I don't really muck around, you know. I will ride, you can ride, I don't know, however many you want a day, however many appointments you make with different people. And you can come and ride, try them. But I'll really in the first 5 minutes go, this isn't for me, or I will keep going.
That quick, you know, in 5 minutes?
Sort of, yeah.
Wow.
For me, yeah. Like I'm pretty confident in what I know I want and what I need.
Fascinating.
So even if the horse is trotting around and it's not really what I'm looking for, I don't waste their time, and I'm like, bring the next one.
Let's move on. You know? Wow. That's crazy. That's that intuition, I guess you got to
have. But I think when you're buying Grand Prix horses, it's a little more difficult.
Well, I guess
unless you're making them.
So that comes down to obviously what you're ultimately hoping to gain and how far you're willing to go or wanting to go with that. So, like, for example, if you're going to the Olympics, you're wanting to qualify for the Olympics, I can imagine that's a little bit different to if you're just showing it locally.
Very different. And I think with Olympic horses, like you either have to make them or buy a finished one. But buying a finished one can be hard because you have to really get to know them and build this relationship to the person before or the person before who's trained it to Grand Prix ride. Because everyone has a slightly different age for your tempi changes or for passage, yeah. And when you change the rider, sometimes these movements don't work out as they would with the previous rider because like the way we ask for the movement is a little different. So I think it's almost a little easier to buy, a young horse or a 6 or 7 year old half finished and finish it yourself.
Because what age? So just on that, so what age are you sort of getting a horse and what's the peak age for a horse to compete at the highest level?
At the highest level, like the Totalist one I have, he started showing just before he was 10. So he was 9 in the Grand Prix. But this is really young, like 8, 9. They can start from 8. Before 8, they're not allowed to do the Grand Prix. They're too young. So I would say like this 8 to 10 is like a really young Grand Prix horse. In my experience, like then they don't feel solid in the Grand Prix or like, I don't know. The best age for me is like, between 12 and 17 kind of a thing.
That's a long period there.
It's a big window, but this is like the best age for when they're finished kind of a thing.
So that means then that you could technically have a horse, say, for Paris, and then if you've got such a good relationship with that horse, you could then take that horse to LA in 4 years. So you could take it to multiple Olympics.
Absolutely, and people have done this for sure. We have another show in between called the World Equestrian Games. And for the horse sport, like it's as big as Paris, just about. It's just not an Olympics, right? The show is and that's every 4 years also, but in the 2-year rotation from the Olympics.
Kind of like the World Championships of equestrian, essentially, kind of.
It's hard to explain. The World Equestrian Games is really fast, like another Olympics. That's not an Olympics.
Right.
Then each year we have a World Cup circuit, which is like World Cup shows one after another. Like you have all these qualifiers. You qualify. This year's the World Cup's in Riyadh, so you need a certain score at the World Cup qualifiers. Then each country will send a team, and they compete in the World Cup. And the World Cup is this year in Riyadh. So we have this every year as well.
I'm definitely going to touch on sort of that and the level of what that takes then to qualify for Paris. But one question I've got to ask, just back to when you're getting a horse from Europe, you're bringing it, you're doing everything you talked about. What's it cost? What does it look right now, Jemma? I say to you, I want to get into equestrian. I want to get myself a dressage horse. What's it going to set me back?
You got to get rich.
Yeah, but tell me, how rich do I need to get? What's it going to cost me?
I think like years ago, it was not as bad as it is now. I think now it gets worse. I mean, horses are expensive as hell, but we're dealing with the currency change too, right? Like we're talking. Do you want Australian dollars or euro?
Give me Australian dollars. Give me the Aussie dollar.
Shit. It depends
what
you want.
You can.
Like, what do you want? Like, do you want a Grand Prix horse?
I want to win Olympic gold in Paris. I want to get myself a gold medal. I'm rich, Jemma. I'm rich.
I don't think you can do that no matter how rich you are because, a big part of it is the relationship.
I'm very good at bonding with my horse with the money.
I mean, you can buy these horses for upwards of if you, I don't know, really you can buy them for 5 million. Depends how much you want to spend kind of a thing.
Wow. So not cheap. Not cheap.
No, I mean, I've never spent 5 million on a horse, but you can. Depends what you want.
It's really. I guess it's one of the, is there limits? Like in terms of like if you are a rich billionaire that wants to get involved in it, like are there does the World Equestrian Organization say, well, it's not fair that you've got all the money, you can spend $20 million on a horse, whereas say, if that makes sense, like are there restrictions in terms of what you can spend? No restrictions.
I think that this sport really comes down to skill, like you can buy a horse for I don't know, make up a figure, 6 million or something. I don't really know if I'm who's sold for that, but I'm sure they do.
So just on that though, I'll jump in there and say, but just you basically, are you looking at minimum like this is millions? I can't buy a horse for $100,000. You're basically saying that you're going to have to.
You can, absolutely you can. You just have to really have an eye and hunt around and find a good one that someone's got somewhere that's like it. This is what, like where you start with the young horses, you know, but then you've got a 10, 12-year journey ahead of you to Grand Prix.
Is it better then in that level, in your eyes, to buy young, train up over that journey, or go all in?
Most of us have young horses in the program, right? Like it's not always. I have 2 Grand Prix horses and I have 2 young horses here, and I'm sure there'll be many more coming. Like we've always got something coming through a little bit. It's just a part of it. And then you're also not spending millions and millions and millions all the time.
It's not. I had to ask that question because I'm wondering if there was just like a general ballpark figure. But what I'm getting at, it's as you said, you've always sort of.
The ballpark figure's not. It's whatever you think it's worth and whatever they think it's worth, and you've got to meet somewhere in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. When you find a good horse. This can really blow out of proportion where there's lots of people wanting one horse, right? Then you can price it at whatever you want. The highest bidder gets the horse, kind of thing. Like there's no set anything. Like it's really up to the discretion of the seller and the person who's willing to put the money down on the table.
Do you find it, sort of going back to what you're talking about how people getting into dressage now, it's a little bit different to say when you were doing it. Is it a sport that if you say don't come from a horse family or like a farming family, that if just, you know, John or Jenny on the street said, Mum, Dad, I want to get into equestrian, like can they just go to their local horse club and join up? Like, is it that sort of simple for people to get involved in the sport from a young age?
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on what level. You know, you can do it at a lower level, at club, national level, quite successfully with not a lot of money. Like you find a relatively okay horse for, you know, 30 or 40,000. Like you can do this too. It just depends. It depends what you want and what funding you have at the end of the day. And there's also people with no money that can really ride through the ranks and find sponsorship and ownership and have, like, you know, some person who, like racehorse owners, want to sit there and watch, who will completely fund that opportunity.
Do you get to a point with your horses, Jemma, where like you have so many going, you obviously, as you said, you form these relationships with it, but I'm sure like all of us, we get to a certain age and we're maybe not quite what we used to be. Like, is there always that really hard decision when you've got a horse that you really love, but it's like time for you to retire. You're not going to do this. I need to move on. And what's that like when you reach that moment with your horse? You got to move on to a younger horse.
This is the shit thing when they're just not going to do it, or they're not going to make it, or they're not good enough, or they don't want to do it. This is not ideal. This is a shit one. It's a hard decision. You know, for a lot of people would sell them to someone who wanted a different goal, right? For me, I sometimes struggle to let them go, and I just put them in the paddock and watch them for the rest of my life.
Which, I mean, because
I really can't part with them. Like, I suck at this.
Well, it's fascinating because I keep using the tennis racket analogy. You don't keep on to do a tennis racket because it's that emotional connection. Because what can somebody do with a horse? Like, it gets to a certain age, say they sell it.
Some people sell them and they find them very good homes, you know, to people who don't want a lot. Like, they just want to ride a dressage horse around maybe some local shows for a bit of fun.
Kind of like the master circuit.
You can find really good matches. You know, there's people out there that want all sorts of different things. That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, it's not always about the Olympic sport. Like, the sport is so much more. And it's about people's relationships with the horses at the end of the day. And you can find this, like, maybe some people just want to do a Prix St. George. Then they can find just a really good Prix St. George horse that maybe is not good enough for the Grand Prix. Then in this circumstance, you know, my one that's not going to make Grand Prix and I really want to do only the Grand Prix, then this horse could find another home somewhere else and really serve a purpose and go to a loving home and stuff like that. And wealthy home even. You don't know. Like, you can find them a great home. But I think for me, I struggle to part with them and I put them in a paddock and watch them.
Sneak them inside, put them on your couch, right?
Feed them for the rest of their lives and play with them.
How old does a horse live for, Gemma? What's the average age of a horse?
Depends. My first pony, Donna, only died last year. She was 20. I think she was really cracking on 30, like 2 months off 30.
That long? Wow.
Depends
Fascinating.
to the kind of care and, what's gone on in their life. Like, have they had severe injuries, or do they have cancer, or all sorts of things contribute to how old they live. But I think if they're in generally good health, like between 28 and 30 is a pretty normal age.
Is it like, say like with a cat and a dog, there's kind of that math where, what is it, like a dog is 7 human years, a cat's 5 human years, or whatever that is.
I don't actually know though.
You don't know the horse sort of like the math for a horse?
No idea. Genuinely no idea.
There'd be a calculator online. I'm sure we could Google it. But
there's like 30-year-old. There's some though that live much older, right? Like some live to like 40.
Wow.
And they look really good. Like they're still getting ridden like 1 or 2 days a week just to do something.
Fascinating.
And at like 32 and stuff.
Have you had...
This is what I mean by like the sport is never the same every day. Like,
which I've got to ask.
Many parts where it's not technical like, like certain other sports where it's like this measurement and that and this and that and this is how you get good. Like it's very like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like every day is really different. You can put in whatever you want. You can get out whatever you want. You can be an Olympian. You can do it for fun. You can whatever. There's a very diverse culture.
I'm going to ask this question based on the fact that I hope none of your horses listen to this interview, but do you have a favorite? Have you had a favorite horse over the years?
I really struggle with this. Like I think every week one is my favorite, but it's always a different one.
Who's your favorite now? Who's your favorite now at the time of recording?
One gets a gold star each week. I have 2 favorites at the moment. Like no one's really shone through to get the gold star this week yet, but we've just had a big journey, so they're not doing a lot.
Just having a bit of rest right now, bit of
they
downtime.
They have a little rest and a few light rides, and yeah, they're cruising. Make sure they're all healthy and don't get travel sick or anything, and yeah.
I've got to ask then in terms of between now and Paris. Now, one bit that I was reading about your recent performance in Florida, getting a score over 70%. Now, can you explain what this means? Because I believe this is a pretty good score to potentially get you on the plane to Paris later this year.
Mm-hmm. So each movement we ride, so there's like a test sheet. And the test sheet has on it each movement, what markers we have to ride to, and stuff like this. So it'll be like canter in, X, halt, salute, which is like the first line. You canter in, you halt, you salute to the judges, and then you trot off, and it'll say track left or right. And then really each movement where it says track left, like is graded, and then extend across the diagonal. Like that movement is graded. The halt is graded. Entry and halt. And yeah, I think each movement is graded 1 to 10. So you get a 7 for your halt or an 8 for your halt. And then at the end, it's all like like the end score. So like the 70.8, whatever, is the accumulated average of every movement. So if you have a mistake, then you get a 4. This really like pulls your score, huh? Yeah, so they were really good scores. And there were still some things to make a lot better with the 70. So we'll see where it takes us. But yeah, that's sort of how it works.
So this was a PB, if I'm not mistaken. You won the event. So and this is on the road to Paris to qualify. These are the types of scores that you need to get in the Australian, and the Australian selectors will sort of look at that.
Yeah, ideally over a 69 is what they have in their requirements.
And how many?
Anything above a 67, but their preference is over 69.
So how many of these events then do you have to tick off? And is there sort of a cutoff point when you need to have achieved a certain amount before the Olympics to make the Olympics?
So we have MER scores, which is like the minimum eligible requirement. And in a MER score, there's a preference, which is 69%. And so we need 2 Grand Prix scores and ideally 2 special scores over 69. And then that gets us into, I guess, like a long list or a list, and they accumulate all the riders with these MERS, minimum eligible requirement scores. And they group us all together. And then they, I guess, for this Olympics, they pick the top three. But the top three also must be running, sound, fit rider, fit horse, so there's a few extra things that come into it rather than just picking the top three highest scores from this pool who have established MERS, their four MERS.
So in an ideal world with three, we could be having you, we could have Jess, we could have Mary, we could all be on the plane, we could all be in Paris, hunky-dory come July.
You can have Simone, you can have Lyndall, you can have Jaden.
And basically everybody's there.
There's a relatively large pool of people right now that have these MERS scores.
And what
next month is ultimately what decides.
So it's still basically by
and
what
anything can happen, right? The horses can become injured. I can break my arm. Like really, there's so many things to the pool than just the scores.
Well, that's where we do avoid having the horses on the couch so that you don't crush the arm or anything like that. So maybe we'll avoid doing that between now and the Olympics. But so what is the absolute cutoff date, Gemma? When will you know? When's like the
I wrote it down and I haven't got it on me, and I've just spent all this time traveling and I have literally stuff everywhere. I can't tell you.
As long as you know that it's got to be before July, right?
Yes, the cutoff is definitely before.
You know not to book a holiday in July and August because you might be in Paris. That's essentially what you need to kind of work out.
No, date is a date, and I have it written down in a diary with all the dates and important things that I need to have written down in there. But to be honest with you, I'm like, I'm in chaos because I only literally just flew back.
Been bouncing back to the US. You're in Germany now.
I'm packing human stuff. I have stuff everywhere. Then, I still ride every day, and it's like in between.
In terms of everything with that chaos, though, Gemma, let's calm the chaos down and ask the simple question to you. I mean, what would it mean to you to make the Olympics this year?
I mean, that would be incredible. I think for any athlete, that is like really the ultimate goal. I think this is something that we can all relate to across all sports. That's really, it's really something we strive towards for our whole careers. So it would be incredible if we could actually make it.
Particularly.
But like I said, there's so many factors into it that, I don't want to call my shots before it's there or we're closer, at least.
But particularly what you were saying before about when you were younger and you'd watch dressage at the Olympics, right? This is going back to young Gemma watching them.
Amazing, like really amazing. And it's amazing that I have the opportunity to be here, riding the horses that I'm riding, doing what I'm doing. Like it's really, the whole thing's like a dream come true.
Now, is this your horse? So if you qualify, is this Saphira Royal 2? Is that the horse that will go with you?
Yes, most likely.
That's
the number one right now. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
I have a second Grand Prix horse, but he's a little young and he was a little wild. He's coming along now.
He can go to LA. He's got 4 years to get up to scratch.
Yeah, exactly. Then he'll be, what is he now? 11. He'll be 15. Perfect
age, right? Perfect age. Can you tell us a bit about Saphira Royal 2? Can you give us a bit of an idea of?
She's really sweet. I love her. She's the best. She's like she's a little shy and like timid, but no, she's amazing. She has a very like fights for me, like when you're in a test and she's a little tired and a little like, I can't be bothered. Like some other horses really throw the towel in and go like, no, not today, sir. Where she really fights for it with you. And I think not many of my horses in my past career really had this like last kick, I want to do it as much as you do.
Fantastic.
And this is really cool. But no, she's an amazing, amazing mare. Like I have a lot of fun with her.
Can we fight for the fact too, I brought this up to every time we've had an equestrian guest on this show, Gemma, that you get to Paris, you win the gold medal. Can we get her a gold medal? Like, why don't the horses get a medal at the Olympics? I feel very offended for the horses.
Even the show horses used to get these garlands, right? These big flower things. Like, what about a garland? Like, they're stunning.
I know. I don't see why.
Awesome. It's all about the athlete, really, isn't it, in this one?
But at the end of
Even
the
though
day,
it's all about the horses and the lead up to it.
I mean, I would argue though that equestrian without a horse would be a very unique event. I don't think it would quite work.
What do they call? They call this hobby horsing or something. I saw something on TikTok the other day. Like, this is equestrian without, like, it's just not it, right?
Be like Monty Python when he's got the coconuts clip-clopping along the way. I mean, you never know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, let's get a medal going for the horse. I just think it's logical.
I agree. At least a garland, like a big thing of flowers.
I think if there's
We
one
need a
thing,
sponsor for that.
we really
Someone who
do.
makes them.
If there's a
Like,
campaign.
sponsor them for the Olympics.
A campaign to get behind for the Olympics. We need to start getting medals for the horses.
Their rug is like their medal, I guess.
Yeah, but a rug. Like, I mean, imagine right now you win the gold in Paris, Gemma, and here you go, here, have a rug. Like, I mean, come on, you've worked your ass off to get there.
I would give on my medal if I won a gold. I would let her have it.
Can you guarantee us that? Can you guarantee she will have your?
I cannot. Absolutely not. I have to make it first, right?
I heard the first part of that answer. That's a. No. We'll edit that. We'll keep that alone. But I mean,
know.
It is that unique aspect though too. We talked to Jess a little bit about it. That of Australia's storied history at the Olympics, we've actually never won a medal in dressage. So I mean, this is overdue. Not just for Sophia Royal. We need to get that medal. We need to get that dressage medal.
I think it's a lot more in the dressage. Like, it's a very predictable sport of who your top, however many are going to be going into the Olympics.
Germany, like, can we just stop?
Germany. Yeah, there's a few. I'm not going to say anything, but there's a few on the top of the sport, right? That if they're on a good day, you can predict it. If one has a bad day, then it shuffles a little bit. But, your top 10 is pretty set. Like, from how the shows have been going throughout the last year or two.
Well, look, I mean, it's all well and good for Paris have the beauty of Versailles.
You can grow up into this top 10 and absolutely be up there. But this takes a long time. And I think the easiest place to do it is in Europe, where you have plenty of exposure, plenty of shows. This is virtually impossible to mimic in Australia.
But in 8 years' time, Gemma, we're hosting an Olympics. So I'm just saying we've got the time, right?
So
Brisbane 2032.
I'll go to the top 10 and then I'll be the medalist, right?
Exactly.
That's what we're going for.
Exactly.
In Brisbane.
Exactly.
Oh.
I'd like to know where we can replicate the fact that you'll be competing in the grounds of Versailles for the equestrian, if you don't mind.
Amazing.
I mean, what Brisbane? Can we Surfers Paradise? Can we go down the beach? I don't know. Where can we replicate the beauty of Versailles in Brisbane?
We can't replicate.
No.
I think the Gold Coast is much nicer, to be honest.
I mean, Surfers Paradise,
on
not
the beach,
not bad on the beach. That'd be beautiful.
Beach show.
Yeah, have it next to the beach volleyball. I mean, they're struggling.
I think they have plans for this already, but I can't remember.
Hey, look, they had a lot of plans for these Olympics already, Gemma, and they've scrapped half of them. They can't even build a new stadium right now, so I'm sure they can move the equestrian somewhere.
To the beach.
To the beach, exactly. Beach equestrian.
I'm ready for it on the beach. I would be here for this.
And that would help us Australians win a medal in dressage. Like,
absolutely.
It's a home Olympics.
It's like the serenity, the therapy of the water.
Hey. See, look at this.
And we can do it.
We've got to have any strategic advantage to help us out in 8 years' time. And if it's on the beach, it will work. I'm telling you now.
Exactly.
Just saying. Medals for horses, beach equestrian. We're ticking off some good campaigns here. Gemma, I like this. We're going to close out with a set of get to know you style questions. Bit of fun there. But you mentioned, you touched on TikTok before. I'm fascinated by your TikTok because I think equestrian.
I have nothing on there really.
But this is what the things you do have on there. I think equestrian and TikTok are kind of made for each other because going back to the very beginning of this interview when it's like dancing horses, I feel that is born for TikTok. Like, I mean...
Yeah, true, right? I'm just really bad at social media stuff. Like, everyone always tells me you need to do more, be more, do more.
You could be that person who cracks it.
When? I spend 24/7 with these goddamn horses.
Just film it.
If I had more time, I could.
Film it all the time.
In Australia, when I had my own farm and I did it like with my own stuff and people that I had help me, like it was really easy to film a lot, right? It's like I could just call them. But now I'm in a huge stable, like I'm talking 280 horses.
Wow.
It's a little more chaos.
Just set up like a GoPro on every single fence and hire like a social media manager. Just like a TikTok person.
Maybe after we show for Paris.
Hey, well, that will help.
I need to be focused, right?
Help with the numbers, right? Paris, like, Olympian, add it, OLY to the end of your name.
That would be cool.
Up the
That would be
numbers.
cool.
There you go. Just saying. Just saying. Where can people follow you? We usually ask this at the end, but I'm on the TikTok page right now. So do you want to plug your TikTok while I'm staring at it right now?
How do I do that?
Just tell us what it
You
is.
mean,
Just
tell you?
yeah, just where can people follow you? Yes.
It's the TikTok and Instagram is all the same.
Just all
It's
the same.
just my name.
Just
so
her
Jemma
name.
Heran.
Easy.
Just my name.
Again, we
Super.
usually close out with that, but I thought we're on that page right now. But I'm seeing here 5,000 followers on TikTok for somebody you say doesn't do much. That's pretty good.
One of my videos has a lot of views. Actually, two of them. One from this last show I did in Australia before I left.
Yeah, I'm seeing here
Just one of the
820,000 views on one here from Sydney.
I came here and some Asian boy from China was like, "You're the like viral TikTok girl." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, this went viral in Asia." I was like, "What?"
This is where
So
I'm
funny.
seeing like a real industry, a niche here for like dressage on TikTok because it's fascinating. It really is.
I didn't post for like over a year, and I think now it's dead. It's game over.
It takes one. Takes one, Gemma. You just post one more, and then you see it go through the roof. You're gonna get that. It's gonna happen. I guarantee you, it's gonna happen. What we do, we close out with a set of get to know yourself questions, and as always, these are a group of questions that were asked to Team Canada athletes ahead of Pyeongchang and Rio. No right, no wrong answers. There is, as always, an element of drawing if you wish to do some drawing. You don't have to. You're busy. You've got an Olympics to get to. But if you wish to, after this interview, you can draw a picture of one of your teammates. You can draw a picture of yourself. I mean, are you a drawer? Do you enjoy drawing at all?
I'm the most least artistic person that is known on this planet.
All right. Well,
really?
we'll give you a pass now for this, and we'll just flick it over to the TikTok basically. But we're going to start off with a pretty simple question for you right now. You talked about growing up watching the Olympics. Do you have a favorite Olympic moment that you ever have seen? A favorite Olympic moment of all time?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. Like in any sport?
Any sport.
Oh, man. I mean, there's like favorite moments with horses, like just nailing it, but there's no, like, it's not a team sport. Like it is, but it isn't, you know?
We've had people do the most randomest things. If you want to do a specific horse moment from the Olympics, I would love to hear it.
I have, like, this has really put me on the spot. I'm really bad on the spot, like, with this kind of stuff.
We can move on. We can come back to it if it's something hits you.
I don't know about this one.
All right. Okay. Well, this should be an easier one.
I can't think of something.
If it does, pops in, come back and answer it. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I think about this one, like, sometimes just randomly. Like, there's a few things I would like to be, but I think, like, I don't know, maybe like invisible so I can like hear and see everything and not be there, right?
You could listen to like judges. You could go to like an event.
The other thing I say literally once a day is I would love to teleport.
Hey, easy. There you go. And your horses too. You know, back and forth.
I would love to teleport. Like I hate driving places. I hate commuting. I hate all of these things that include traveling. And it's funny because I'm living in Germany. I'm Australian, so it's quite a hike.
Well,
maybe this is why I'd rather teleport.
Come straight back to Australia, do the TikTok. Easy. That works for me.
Yeah,
basically.
Teleport, no worries.
Yeah,
I'm here
easy.
to teleport.
Tick it off.
Yeah, invisible, I always thought about when I was a kid. Like, I'd really like to just be invisible and like be like, whatever I'm doing.
So you
without them knowing I'm there.
Combine them both, Gemma, and then if you could teleport into like a bank, be invisible, steal all the money, then come back home.
Rude. Absolute mood.
You're welcome.
I'm so used to this.
I thought about that too much as well, as you can clearly see. Your favorite sports movie is?
Movie?
Yeah.
I really like She's the Man.
Okay. That's
a sport movie, but
it's about
fun.
Soccer, right? She plays soccer in it.
It's funny. I love a bit of humor.
No, great answer. I like that. That's a sports movie.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Soccer, but
it's a
like
sports
a girl
movie.
and a boy, like, and taking on all the boys. This is a mood.
And kicking their ass as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
so there you go.
mood.
Your funniest childhood memory is?
Oh, to say one memory?
You can give us 20 if you like.
I can't even really like. I had a lot of funny childhood memories, but like to pin it, I don't know.
You want
Wow.
to put that on the pile and come back to it?
Yeah,
If you
put that on the pile. Like
on the
I'm on
pile.
like a horse journey destination. My brain's in like one direction. You've just pulled out the past. I'm like, oh shit.
This
Have
is
to
what I
think.
want. I want more excuses from our guests
Oh
because it's like
shit.
I've got an Olympics to go to. Ben, stop asking me these questions.
I'm really on this like mental path right now, and it's like you've just pulled up my
That is the
childhood. Like,
mindset of an
shit.
Olympian, Gemma. That's
Fuck,
perfect.
I can't think right now. Like I need a minute.
Hey, I
One.
want you to answer that pretty much for all of these now because that's the best way of doing it. Do you have a favorite pump up song before you get out there and compete?
I love old music, like
Okay.
90s, 2000s. I love old music. And one of the boys I ride with here, like what we've been doing lately is like sitting in the car and listening to like old music, but with a techno beat so that it
Ah,
like gets us going, right? So
nice.
like this has been our thing. But yeah, like really like 90s, 2000s music is it.
I have to
Old soul.
say the
I
fact
mean,
that
that
you
was my
just
childhood music. I
well,
loved
I was
it.
going to say at least you say child, you saved it there. I was about to say you're saying that like you made me feel 90s and 2000s music is now old now. I'm like shit. This is aging us right now, isn't it?
Seven, it's okay. Dude, I'm 27. Like,
Add another decade onto you there, Gemma, and that's where I'm at. The most recent TV, you might not have the
37.
time, the most recent TV show that you binge watched is, if you've had the time, of course.
I don't get a lot of time to watch TV shows. Like I love binge watching, but once I'm in, I'm in, and like
Yeah.
it's really hard to get out. But the last one, I'm trying to think. Maybe it was like Selling Sunset or something. I
Okay.
like light TV where I can just like fall asleep to it. This
Is
is
it
definitely one.
sort of in the travel, sort of like between the US and Germany? Like, are you straight to sleep? Do you watch a movie? Like, what sort of do you do to pass the
Depends
time?
on the day. Like I've been a bit jet lagged, so I've been up until really nearly 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I get up at 6, and I'm like, oh no, this is not it. So we've had a few days like this. So at the moment, I'm straight out cold. But to be honest with you, most of my life overseas is like I hit the pillow, I turn the TV on within 3 minutes. I'm
Out. Done. There you go.
out.
What
Yeah.
are your least favorite foods?
Vegetables, all vegetables. I think it's
I
the texture.
love that
like they're
answer.
crunchy. Like, oh,
Can I just
I
say,
can't.
like, you
Like
know
I
how
can eat
you're meant to
potatoes,
grow
but
out
it
of
has to
that,
be-
but you don't,
Yeah,
do you?
No, never
No.
really. I think
No.
it's a texture thing. Like I
Mm.
really get like, oh, like
Yeah.
when I eat them, it's like the crunchy thing. Like, oh,
That's the best
and like
answer.
I hate tomatoes, but I eat tomatoes if it's
Yes.
soup. I hate potatoes, but I eat them if they're mashed or
It's,
pumpkin or eat it in a soup.
but you've
Nothing
got,
green, like lettuce. Like go to the tree and pick a leaf and eat it. Like, ugh.
I've
No,
said that
thank
for
you.
years when people have tried to
I
sell me
hate
on vegetables.
vegetables.
Because I think, like, you literally get to an age where you're expected to grow out of that childhood vegetable hate. I'm
No.
37. I've never grown out of it. I'm with you. I
Never.
hate vegetables. Yeah.
I hate vegetables. And like
Yep.
my parents used to make me sit there and eat at least my peas and I would swallow them whole because I
Oh.
hated them popping. Like
Oh.
I was like, at least if they go down whole, I can't really taste anything or
No,
no,
I'm with you.
not
No, completely
not
agree.
it. I drink some like green drinks like to substitute it, but I hate vegetables.
Do you
I
have
love
then?
fruit, just hate vegetables.
Do you have sort of with the training when you're like, you know, you're in the gym or doing your training outside of riding? Do you have a nutrition plan that you have, or is it a case of that's not really
No,
part of the
not
sport?
typically. I mean, one of the German and I, Freddie, he trains me. He's potential for Paris for the German team. Him and I flew down to this clinic in Austria and they did all of this and it was really amazing. But to be honest with you, we don't get enough time to do it. They're like, you know, you need more of this in your diet. So we implemented these things that we could add more and what we lacked. They did the fecal sample. They did a few things for us. So we could implement what we lacked. But in terms of like a nutrition plan, it's like cook this, cook that. And it's like, do you know how intense our lives are? Like we're struggling to get enough sleep at night. Like I think to implement a whole plan, we would need a cook. And this is something I could do in Australia, but I think me being away from home, like it's too hard. It's really difficult.
I can imagine the horses have got a pretty strict diet though, right? Like the horses.
Yeah,
you-
they're fun.
Yeah.
They're fun. Us,
Horses
on the
are
other
fun.
hand,
Okay.
we're just their slaves.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Your favorite chip flavor is?
Salt and vinegar.
Oh, I didn't even think
And
about that.
I love how you said chip and not fries.
You're welcome.
Thank God.
You're welcome.
I'm not in America no more.
Yeah, exactly. Hence why you can say what you want on this show. It's all Australian
There's
flavor.
so many things Australian that I haven't heard for a minute. I love it.
Is there anything in particular you really need to catch up on right now, just to help out with the Australian? Just, missing anything bad from home, Australian at all?
No, not really. I'm pretty good. They send packages every now and then with just like random food stuff in it.
What is like? Do you have the one? Like, are you a Tim Tam girl? Like, I mean, like
I'm not really Tim Tams, but I'm not like obsessed. Like, I miss Alan's lollies.
Oh yeah.
The other day I was craving 2-minute noodles. It was so random. Like, I haven't had these since I was a kid, and like, really, they don't make them in America or here. And I'm like, I really feel like 2-minute noodles. Because the ones in America were like spicy ramen.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? Ramen's not quite the same as your Maggi 2-minute noodles, right?
No, it's not at all the same. Like, it's totally spicy, and I hate spice.
Yeah.
So that was not it. But yeah, I randomly craved that the other day. What about other things? Like, there's a few things, but the girls from home often send it. It's mostly just like lollies and random things.
As long as you get there eventually.
Have a jar of Vegemite in the fridge always.
That's good. Got to travel with Vegemite, right? Got to have that full-on
everywhere.
Taste of home.
Yeah.
If you weren't an athlete, Jemma, what would you be?
I was a lawyer.
Was a lawyer?
Yeah, like I went to uni. I got a law degree. I worked for 5 months. I got admitted into the court, and the same day I got admitted as a lawyer, I left the country for Germany with horses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm technically a lawyer.
I was going to say, you didn't just give it up, right? Well, this isn't for me. I'm just going to go to Germany with my horses. So
basically, yeah, I did this. Yeah, I did this.
Is that common?
Worked for 5 months.
Is that common in the legal industry?
No, I'm a bit red hot. But when you do your practical legal training, you have to work, right? So I did that's so that you get admitted as a lawyer. So you have to do so many hours, blah, 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 blah. So I did my practical legal training and worked this whole time and rode 5 horses a day, 2 in the morning before and 2 in the afternoon.
Wow.
So I started at 4:30 in the morning and finished at 10:30 at night and had like legit a 1-hour lunch break. And I'm telling you, after 5 months like this, like I was delirious. I was like,
I can imagine.
And then I would go out see my friends on the weekend because I was like, I can't just work. Like I'll be delusional. Like I'll go crazy. Just like working and writing. So I would see my friends on the weekends, and I've never been so tired in my life. I barely remember this time. But I sort of had a decision to make, when I got admitted as a lawyer. Like, do I pursue a law career or do I pursue the horses full time? Because it's not working doing both. Like I had plenty of help at home, but it still wasn't human. Like I just couldn't do it the way I wanted to do the horses, and I couldn't do the law the way I wanted to do the law. Like I had to really pick something and throw everything at it. And I think my parents and I always said, I worked through school, then I went to uni, like I never really stopped. So I sort of was like, this horse thing was always something I wanted to do. Like we talked about doing a gap year and doing it. And then I was like, I'm just going to keep going because I'll never go back. And so we agreed to do this sort of a gap year thing now, I guess. Let me run away with the
casually
horses.
Go to the Olympics in my gap year.
Yeah, run away with the horses. The sporting career expires, you get less fit and this and that, and law is always there. Like I can always renew my certificate.
I was going to ask you that would be the plan, to go back and sort of do that?
Right now, no. I don't really want to change anything. Like I'm happy how I am.
Got to get that Olympic medal,
I'm
right?
happy. I love the horses. I'm tired. I get tired. It's intense, but this is always what I've wanted to do.
There's a TV show in that, Jemma. There's the lawyer who by day is a lawyer and by night rides horses. I don't know. There's something in that.
My whole life is a TV show, really. It's insane.
Well, going back to
funny.
TikTok, where's the reality show? Where's the Jemma reality show?
I need a reality show.
Hey, after the Olympics, just get the TikTok working during the Olympics, and then you get the virality of it. and it goes through the
I
roof.
don't need this. I have friends that do this in Australia. I don't need this.
I'm
grow up in this
thinking
life,
of
and
your
I'm like,
future. I'm thinking of the money that will pile in, right? You know,
Right.
just bring it out there. Your favorite vacation spot is?
I have a few, but I would say when we're in the US, we went to the Bahamas at the end of the season for 2 nights, and I love it in the Bahamas. This is one of my favorite places from when I was a kid.
Beautiful. Nice.
Yeah.
Do the horses come with you to the Bahamas? Or
No, unfortunately not.
Do the horses get to go on a vacation?
Love it.
Do they ever get to go? Aw. So we need to get medals?
Vacation to their paddock. That's where they go.
Not seeing a horse sitting on the Bahamas beach with like a cocktail, you know, snipping a few back, basically. It's been a long day.
That's funny.
Next time.
Funny.
What is something that people usually describe you as?
Do you want like the real answer?
Absolutely.
Like, she's a bit of a diva.
Hey.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I'm here to roll.
You got to be a diva, right? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, What have you got? Yourself. Come on.
I know.
Got to look after number one, Jemma. You do. Absolutely. As long as the horses aren't divas, right?
No, they're pretty good. They're a little bit queenie, but they're fine.
We all have our moments.
At the stable door really at 2 p.m. Like, take me out again.
We've got to go to an Olympics. Jemma, again, this is usually the part of the episode where I'll get you to tag, but you've already tagged your social media and everything on those lines. But I want to say best of luck between now and Paris. We'll be watching your journey, crossing all the fingers and toes and everything else along the way. Get you there. Get on the TikTok. Get all there, and let's help get a medal for dressage for Australia when it comes to the Olympics.
I agree. This is a good plan.